You can cry on command.
But they are usually very fast, and that is why I decided to create this. Welcome to Free Talk, the show to help you learn English the fun and simple way. Ready?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Free Talk Podcast, the show where we have one objective: to take your English to the next level, the fun and simple way. My name's Alan, and I am the host of this show. And today we will talk a little about music. Now, depending on your age, depending on when you were born, you may remember some of the difficulties, some of the problems that we used to have in the past to find music. I am not very old. I think I'm 27 right now, but I grew up in the 90s, part of the 90s and the 2000s. So at that time, I remember that, well, first of all, I didn't have like a big musical knowledge, and still today I don't. But what I mean is that back in the day, back in the 90s, I didn't have like my musical tastes or my musical preferences defined. So I was just listening to a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I was listening to different things, but I didn't have like records of my own. I didn't have CDs. I didn't have any kind of musical device to listen. I didn't have Discman. I didn't have anything. So my only contact with music to me was through some of the albums that we had at home from my parents, but mostly through television. I remember that there was this show on MTV with the top 10 of the week every week, and if I liked a song that was at the time playing on the radio, and I wanted to listen to that song, I had to wait until that show at 3 p.m. and I had to wait to see if the song I wanted to listen was in that top 10. But that was it. I didn't listen to the radio because the radio in the place where I was living was horrible, and I have never been really a fan of radio. So that was for me the way that I had to find new music and listen to the music that I liked. Later on, some years later, I got the chance to buy my first MP3 player. I think that should have been something around 2000 and 2004 or something like that. And in that moment I started like discovering new music because I had now access to the internet, and now I was like finding these new groups and these new bands and downloading the music, the MP3 files, and starting to listen to them. And so for me, I mean, getting music, it was maybe a little complicated, but still, even when with these complications, it was so much easier than way back in the past. So just think about the times where there was no internet available. So in that case, you only had radio or television, or of course buying the album. But that meant that you had to buy the entire album. There was no option to preview it. So every time a new artist come out with a new album, they launch a new album, but you don't have really an opportunity to listen to the entire album. You only listen to one or two singles, and that's it. You don't know if the rest of the album is going to be as good as those singles that you listen, so you had to buy it. And that just got me thinking how lucky we are right now to have we have virtually the entire catalog of music in the palm of our hands. With streaming services such as Spotify and Deezer and Radio and Apple Music, and right now there is also Tidal. So we have every song we want to have just by typing the name. It's absolutely easy to just say, if you are, wherever you are, if you have internet on your cell phone, if you have a data plan or you have Wi-Fi, and you say, I want to listen to this song right now, the only thing you need to do is to take out your cell phone, type the name, just the beginning of the name, and the results will come up automatically and at the moment, and that's it. You can listen to the song. So we are so lucky of having these kind of services, because we have all the music at our disposal whenever we want. That is something that, again, it was not available for me 15 years ago, and so much more so it was not available for people in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s. It was, I think, inconceivable, just the idea of having so much control and so much music. It was like nobody could have imagined that. But now this streaming thing, as good as it is, poses some kind of problems. I think that not really for the user, because I don't have any complaints. How could I complain? But this is generating a lot of arguments and discussions, basically between the providers of these services, let's say Spotify, and the musicians, and sometimes not only the musicians, or not the musicians themselves, but the record companies, the labels. So we know, of course, that labels are, I don't know, they are kind of a mercenary business, because yes, they are producing artists, they are giving them promotion, they are helping put their music out, but they are not really doing any of the creative aspect, any of the creative work of music, and still they are getting most of the money. That is not something that I am making up, or that maybe you don't know. This is something we all know. And of course, these people, these business people, these executive people, are seeing that these streaming services are posing a threat. So it's a threat, THREATH. Threat is something that puts in danger, in peril, their businesses. Because basically what the streaming is, generally in almost every service, is that you have this free service and you have the premium service. If you decide that you don't want to pay a monthly subscription for music, you will have to listen to some ads, to some commercials in between your songs, at least in the case of Spotify. Some other services are different. For example, with Apple Music, if you don't want to pay, you cannot listen to any song. So you only have access to the radio, but you cannot choose what song you want to listen to. To do that, you need to pay a monthly subscription. The same goes with Tidal, this streaming service that is owned by Jay-Z and a lot of other musicians. It's the same. If you don't want to pay, you cannot listen. It's simple as that. So the case really is between Spotify and the record labels, because the service of Spotify allows you to stream almost any song without having to pay money. If you listen in your cell phone, there are some more restrictions, like it's always shuffle, so you cannot decide which song you want to listen. You can maybe listen to some songs by the same artist or to an album, but you cannot decide the order. It's always going to be shuffle, which is not really a big deal. I mean, I have no problem with listening to songs that are not in order. And you will listen to some ads almost every 2 or every 3 songs, but it's just a 15 or 20 second interruption, and that's it. And if you are okay with those restrictions, you don't have to pay. And that is where the labels, the record companies, are saying this is not a good business model for us, because we are just giving out the music. We are putting the music out there for free, and we are not getting that money. And what Spotify is saying about that is that right now, I'm not sure about the number, but it was something in the likes of 250 million users. I'm not sure. But they had millions and millions of users, more users than all the other competitors together. So Spotify is the biggest streaming for music. And they are generating money because a lot of their subscribers are premium. So they are paying every month for the music. But I mean, there was perhaps you listened to this thing that happened with Taylor Swift, and she said what she was asking to Spotify was that her songs should be available only to premium users. So if you are a free user of Spotify, you cannot listen to Taylor Swift songs. That's what she was asking. And because Spotify didn't agree, Spotify said, no, we can't do that. She decided to pull off, P-U-L-L-O-F-F, pull off, which means to retire, to remove her music from the streaming service. And this has generated this controversy, this argument about whether you should pay to listen, or if this kind of business model is useful. I can tell you right now that, at least from my perspective, I am willing to pay for music because I recognize that the job of a musician, all the work that they do to record an album, is an amazing amount of work, and they need to be paid for that. Absolutely. Not only is that a job, but it's a wonderful job that brings us music. So Of course, they should get paid. But right now, for instance, I am not paying for Spotify. I am using the free service because for me, once again, it poses no problem. I am okay with the interruptions. I am okay with the shuffle thing. So I don't feel like I need to pay. But the question is, if they decided to one day not allow you to stream music unless you pay, we don't know how much that would affect the number of subscribers, the revenue, the money that they are generating. And I don't think that a streaming service is something that is going to disappear, but doing something like that could really damage not only the artist or the industry, but users in general. And that's something that I was thinking of about music, because a lot of people, in recent years, since the beginning of this, let's say, internet era, where now all the information is almost universally available. People from all around the world can find information, music included, and just download it. A lot of times, of course, in an illegal way. And a lot of people have been considering the idea that maybe this kind of distribution of music, streaming, could eventually kill music. That because all the music is available and no people have to pay for the music, eventually record labels or music industry companies will not have enough money to keep producing artists, and this would eventually lead to the death of music industry as we know it. I personally don't believe it, because you can see it. Just every major artist that we know is getting millions of dollars for their work, even though a lot of their music is not being acquired legally, is not being paid for. But that was the idea of this podcast, and it was in part because of this topic in general. But I also wanted to make a podcast about music, so that I could have the opportunity to talk to you about our most recent video show on YouTube. In this moment, as you are listening to this episode of the podcast, we have in our YouTube channel the first episode of our new show. And our new show is a show about music. But how about music? Well, this new show is called Lyrics Inspector. Lyrics Inspector. And what we are doing in this new show is that in every episode we take one song. Right now we are selecting the songs ourselves. We are choosing some of our favorites, but in the future you can tell us, you can ask for a special song that you want to see in that show. So what do we do in the show? We take the song and we analyze the lyrics. So we take maybe the verses or the lines of the song, we put them on the screen, and then I explain to you what that sentence means. Sometimes it's easy to understand it, sometimes maybe not, because they could be using idiomatic expressions, idioms, or they could be using some words that you don't know, or some words that you don't identify when you listen to it, or maybe you understand a few things here and there, but you don't understand really the general idea of the song. So in this show, we are doing that for you. We are going to analyze the lyrics, the verses, the things they are saying, and we are going to connect all those things they are saying. And in the end, at the end of the episode, we are going to retell you the story. So what the song is about, what are they trying to say, if maybe there is a double meaning there, if maybe it's not so literal and it's being, metaphorical or something like that. So that is the objective of Lyrics Inspector. We take songs, we break them into pieces, and we explain to you what the singer or the band or the musician is saying in that song. The episode that we have today, the premiere of this show, is the song I Saw Her Standing There by the Beatles. That is our first song. So if you want to check that show out, you can go to our channel, which is youtube.com/freetalkenglish, youtube.com/freetalkenglish, and in our YouTube channel you can find that new show that we have for you today. And also we have Say What, where we explain everyday common expressions, and we have My Two Cents, where I give you my opinion about many different things, usually English learning tips, my experiences, my anecdotes, etc. So that's going to be the end of this episode. I would love to see you on YouTube with our new show, and of course I would like to know, what is your opinion, what is your take on this subject of streaming? Do you think that streaming services are really killing the music industry? And if streaming were the only available way to listen to music, would you be willing to pay a monthly subscription, or you would prefer, like in the good old days, buying the albums, buying the CDs, or buying albums through things like iTunes and all those things? What do you prefer? Do you prefer to have the music in your computer, in your house, or do you prefer to stream music? Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, if you are listening on iTunes, on Stitcher, or on SoundCloud, so you can download the new episodes in the minute that we have them online. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you next Friday for our pronunciation only episode of the week. Keep it simple.